YouTube comments from a video titled Live Special COL Douglas Macgregor 2025 Year-End Review plus 2026 Forecast. Part 3.
At Monkeys Barking 5814 wrote,
Russia just nationalized over $120 billion of European company assets and their forward contracts. That's 30 years worth of market share development lost to buy one more year of war in Ukraine by the EU.
A source text wrote,
For what it's worth. Who wrote the Hebrew laws? Are they from God or men? Understanding the ancient religions. Dialogues for understanding. The role of ancient religions and the future of world peace. From the Talmud, about non-Hebrew, the Hebrew are called human beings, but the non-Hebrew are not humans. They are beasts. Talmud, Baba Meziah, 114b, all Gentile children are animals. Yevamot 98a. The souls of non-Hebrew come from impure spirits and are called pigs. Jalkut Rubini Gadol 12b. If you eat with a Gentile, it is the same as eating with a dog. Tosafot, Jebamoth 94b. Jehovah created the non-Jew in human form so that the Jew would not have to be served by beasts. The non-Jew is consequently an animal in human form and condemned to serve the Jew day and night. Midrash Talpiath, p. 225l. When the Messiah comes, every Jew will have 2,800 slaves. Simeon Hatterson, Fall. 56d. It is permitted to take the body and the life of a Gentile. Sefer Ikrim 3c25. Kill the Goyim by any means possible. Shoshan Hamishpat 425. 50. Everyone who sheds the blood of the impious, non-Jews, is as acceptable to God as he who offers a sacrifice to God. Yalkut 245. See, every Jew who spills the blood of the godless non-Jews is doing the same as making a sacrifice to God. Talmud, Bamidbar Rabbah c. 21. In Jalkut 772. Gentile girls are in a state of niddah filth from birth. Aboda Zerah 36b. A pregnant non-Jew is no better than a pregnant animal. Caution Hamishpat 405. Is the law to kill anyone who denies the Torah. The Christians belong to the denying ones of the Torah. Caution Hamishpat 425. Haggadah 425. 5. Extermination of the Christians is a necessary sacrifice. Zohar, Shemeth.
At Bear Gildigam Cessful wrote,
Russian people better understand and come to terms with the fact that in Ukraine, they are not warring against European governments, but against their ultimate handlers, which, as usual, operate by stealth under many disguises, and if anyone calls them by their name, they will yell out and howl anti-Semitism.
At Walter Brownstone 8017 wrote,
I got a laugh at these so-called Western analysts, framing a general's death as a major fail. I don't think Russia sees it that way. That's the American leadership's own cowardice showing through.
At Monkeys Barking 5814 wrote,
What will the ripple effects be back in Europe itself? The EU isn't going to rebuild Europe. They'll spend the money trying to get white boys to unalive in Ukraine so newcomers can take Euro girls.
At Monkeys Barking 5814 wrote,
The solution will be WW1 when the banks transferred the mounting unsellable debt they held to the public as war bonds. Russia may sit on resources. The problem will shift to ports and transit corridors. Does America, Israel, and the EU have enough military to block every door? We're back to Mackinder's strategy of the Bank of England, sea versus land.
At Daniel Sanchez, N4V wrote,
Humanity has awakened. The evil Anglo-Zionist international financial cartel has been exposed globally for its crimes against innocent Semitic babies and women in Palestine. They have been condemned in the International Court for Genocide and Crimes Against Humanity. God told us, you will know the demons by their actions.
At Lucker Cove 6844 wrote,
He's out of his cage, thanks to Boris Johnson and Guy Verhofstadt. And Biden let it happen. Or was it Obama? WEAREF%CKED.
At Ron Harris 3839 wrote,
It has been reported on NPR that 2 Ukrainians are in court accused of blowing up the Russian pipeline. One in Italy says he was under orders and that the pipeline was a legitimate military target. 2 issues 1. For weeks it was on national news reported by Seymour Hersh that the CIA did it. Commentators on this show supported Hersh's claims. 2. After weeks of staining the integrity of the CIA, how to remove the stain caused by Seymour Hersh's false claims?
At Aletta 2660 wrote,
This is more of Trump pretending that he's doing something against Venezuela. To his stupid followers who don't have brain cells, just like he supposedly took out all of Iran's nuclear capabilities. Now he's stopped the drugs from coming out of one area because he's destroyed the bullshit.
At Azilmez 1 wrote,
Great analysis, as usual. Some of the very few truthful people I trust and listen regularly. Zionists are the cancer in world society today. Humanity is in real and present danger of going over the cliff if they continue to watch and do nothing against Israel and its protector US. People need to wake up. Wars must stop and peace must prevail. It is the only way for humanity to progress. That is my wish going into 2026.
At Sakaraslam 6350 wrote,
Presidency in Trump's view is a business that he profits from it. It's as simple as that. He doesn't give a damn about U.S. people. Israel is first, gentlemen.
At Dingadog 5677 wrote,
Why do Americans generally support Ukraine? Ukraine has no love for anything but the money. Stop that, and they will start targeting the U.S. They will become another parasite to the U.S. and will have to keep on the good side. Just like Israel.
At Merigio wrote,
The U.S. administration is a criminal terrorist organization. And U.S. Congress is a Nazi-like convent if you just remember the 58 standing ovations for the biggest genocidal terrorist on earth called Netanyahu.
At Dennis Sutherland R3M wrote,
Colonel Douglas Macgregor tells it as it is. It's not going to be a happy new year. Nevertheless, this is a time when we need giants of decent men. Cromwells, wherever you are, arise. Let not our hopes be forlorn.
At James Cathro 5257 wrote,
WTF are you talking about? Russia is ready for a war with Europe. Russia couldn't beat a pathetic war machine in Afghanistan. Russia are struggling to beat Ukraine. Europe will annihilate Russia if Russia fires one weapon towards Europe. You are a complete fool, MC Gregor.
P-Seb4 wrote,
If you remember when Ukraine tried to hit the Kremlin with a drone early in the Ukrainian war, it just disappeared with a few sparks, so Russia has some very special defense systems for critical places.
Asaba 7031 wrote,
This is a section of letter G Soleimani wrote to his daughter during war in Syria/Iraq with IS. If this dam breaks, all these lands, all these people will suffer a calamity that the past history of the Mongols will be nothing compared to. But what can I do when some so-called intellectuals laugh and think that we are fighting for the survival of one person, namely Bashar? They do not know that this is the front for the defense of humanity, not just the defense of Islam. This is the front for the defense of Islam, not just the Shia. This is the front for the defense of Iran, not just the Shia. This is the front for the defense of all the unsuspecting people in their homes, streets, and businesses.
Asifka Silvio wrote,
The English media has been talking about resistance,
And little Adolf said at Christmas that the Nazis wanted the Russian president dead. The British media the intelligence services, keep telling us the fairy tale that the Russian president is sitting in his residence and not in Moscow. These fairy tales are always so cute. I find it astonishing that people believe that would change anything. In that very hour, Ukraine would be history and all the nonsense with the Amy's would be over. When will the Nazis and their supporters understand that it is Russia and not one person? It's like in the US, where the president is also credited with more abilities than he ultimately has.
George Mercer RM-Ada-C wrote,
It has been suggested on another channel that the attack on Putin happened between phone calls with Trump after Trump's meeting with Zelensky. So that's how they knew Putin's whereabouts at the time.
A Super Pathfinder 10 wrote,
With that assassination spree, I wonder why the Russians do not just take out Zelensky. It is war, and he is in the way of ending it, while the people are for peace. That is my understanding of the situation. So a bit like the Stauffenberg attentat on Hitler in one view. Even if some might view it different, it seems the next logical step of retaliation. War on terror as the US framed it. With terror attacks on leadership, all gloves are off. Not a smart thing to do. So taking out the leadership should be the next logical step. Russians are very restrained in that way so far.
At the Guidian 777 wrote,
With a Scottish tartan shield and a, more than likely, gay cowboy in the back. Pride is a long fall waiting to happen. I know, F off. Reset your head. Let's do better.
At GSGF 029 wrote,
The deep state knew where Putin was. Trump talked to Putin, then told him he'd call him back after his meeting with Zelensky. Putin stayed put. Trump most likely has no clue this was why the attack happened.
At 22 Oracanes wrote,
No wonder why the biggest Trump supporter, the Congresswoman, quits next January 2026. She knows better how is Netanyahu Israel first instead of USA first.
At Stephen Moyers 3586 wrote,
We're crumbling and collapsing while Trump stuffs his pockets with our once great credit, wealth. Squandered on war, lies, and the GD security state. Oligarchs took advantage of our credit and naivete. Rev 17:15, and he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. 9:11:17. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, New York City, Wall Street, United Nations, World Trade Center, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
At Ambrose Morgan 7022 wrote,
You guys are hilarious. The way you talk about President Trump as if he's in control when he doesn't have the power to decide what he eats it when he gets up or go to bed.
PSEB4 wrote,
Netanyahu would probably have Israel's President Herzog assassinated probably when he visits Australia, soon as Herzog is his only obstacle to being pardoned and continuing to rule Israel.
At Dystopic State wrote,
I think there needs to be a larger investigation into how many decision makers are still living in 1989, but also how many of them have a serious drug problem. Marco Rubio's recent behavior has been flagged by both medical experts and previous addicts as that of someone deep in the habit. Add this to the perpetually glassy-eyed look on Don Jr., the violent paranoia of Hegseth, and the increased number of Congress members leaving to spend more time with family. If you've ever spent time in corporate America, you know exactly what that means, and there seems to be a pattern forming. If nothing else, it would help explain why so many of them seem to have this cultish love for Netanyahu and Trump, and why they keep on making decisions that make no logical sense for the long-term security of this country. As much as I would love to believe that perhaps their behavior is the result of sophisticated power moves above my pay grade, I've been around the sun enough times to know that most often, the simplest answer is the right one.
AcidDog44 wrote,
As a Brit, I apologize for our regime. They've been in place for 1,000 years and have it all sewn up. They have only loyalty to their own class.
Esikaxfulop wrote,
Istanbul Plus is not enough. Putin is going soft and doing a grave injustice to the Russian people. Russian demands should be much, much harsher. I fear Putin is throwing away this opportunity to advance Russian interests. Now is not the time for Russia to go soft. Permanent peace in Ukraine will only be ensured when the eastern half of Ukraine is Russian.
John Wainwright 9313 wrote,
As a Brit looking in, I get so despairing of the apparent impotence of your administration, strangled as they are by greedy, filthy rich senators and their big money donors. Lindley Graham and co. would rather that the world was at war, just as long as they can keep their snouts in the pig's trough. There is so much vile corruption in, around, and probably under the hill. Better that it was wiped off the map, and George Washington got an early resurrection. Nevertheless, God bless America, and God save the Americans.
Jerry Alatalo wrote,
Thank you, Judge Napolitano, for being one of the top go-to places on the internet for receiving accurate/honest facts about important, too often unreported developments on our shared Earth.
Gaffney wrote,
A few months ago, Pollard warned that Israel could use nuclear weapons against Egypt. This man is a traitor to America. The real question is, why was he ever released from his life prison term? He was guilty as hell. His release showed that MAGA was always a lie.
Edovage 333 wrote,
President Putin has already dismissed out of hand any notion of Russia going to war against Europe. NATO forces on the territory of Ukraine, officially or unofficially, will be obliterated, and military targets across Europe anywhere may be attacked and destroyed, but a full-scale invasion of Europe is not on Russia's agenda.
A 22 Oracanes wrote,
Everyone knows at this point, Netanyahu was bragging about he owns the USA Congress. He's using the American taxpayers' money and weapons for his own benefit and narrative. Better wake up, cause when USA haven't any benefit for Netanyahu. Netanyahu will turn his back against USA interests and national security. And just watch.
A John Schmidt 6815 wrote,
Military Summary Channel reports. Trump asked Putin to stay in place for a phone call after he completed his discussion with Zelensky. Some Russian media outlets are asserting a leak to Ukraine's as to the time and place of Putin's presence.
At Alexcaras 1573 wrote,
I thought inciting terror was a serious crime nowadays. How is it then that Israelis and Zionists are regularly getting serious airtime promoting total genocide of all Palestinians, especially in Gaza, without objection or prosecution by Western powers?
At Leon 4692 wrote,
The explosion in Venezuela is a lie. He has lied, there is no docks there. It was a chemical plant, and they already put out a letter and videos of employees trying to put out the fire in the area of the flammable material. So once again, is all smoke and mirrors. At Hermes 559 wrote,
Thank you for sharing. The doomsday is near. There is no time to waste on vain things. Whoever is eliminating his psychological defects will be safe from the catastrophes that will come. The book Herculubus or Red Planet by V.M. Rabelais gives us the key to achieve this. You can read it in PDF in several languages.
At Alpi 57 wrote,
I have the utmost respect for Colonel Macgregor and his opinions, but I don't understand why he keeps on making excuses for Trump, a bombastic, inept, know-nothing human being devoid of any education about world politics or ability to manage the country he has been entrusted with. He is bringing the world to the brink of a global war, and nobody is saying a word. The next attack on Iran will ensure the start of WW3.
Esenvare wrote,
Pollard said in a Settler podcast year ago that if the U.S. stopped supporting Israel in an attempt to force peace, Israel should nuke the U.S., and he is probably going to win a seat in the Knesset. He should have suffered a captured spy's fate. Instead, Trump made him a national hero. When it comes to Israel, Trump is Trump clan first, Israel second, U.S. a distant third.
As Shahid Ali IE5TD wrote,
Norman Finkelstein reported the chart of wealth distribution of U.S. that only 1/10 of 10% population owns 15% of total wealth of U.S. That's the irony of U.S.
Helena FD8VL wrote,
Basically, there are forces which want to destroy Europe. It's been going on for years. Mass migration being forced on us and now an existential war being imposed on us. Who will benefit?
At Edward David 2976 wrote,
Is terrible price of impeachment, or forced resignation, or nationwide protests, Mr. T willing to sacrifice for Zionist Nazis, plus another war with Iran, Turkey and other countries worth it? See how fast President Agent Orange gets removed.
At Equality and Liberty wrote,
Trump is behind the attack on Putin. If you study Trump's behavior over the last 6 years, you will come to that same conclusion. There was a call planned between Putin and Trump. The U.S. knew exactly where Putin was. That is the same way the U.S. uses that information to let Israel kill the negotiators. And also, this is the same way Nasrallah was killed.
At Dominic Thank God M4P wrote,
Putin is a weak war president. He let the Ukrainian cross so many major lines for a superpower. Maybe Russia doesn't have all the weapons they claim.
At Zekingongo 9123 wrote,
At I won't stop expressing my gratitude, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Thank you. I ask the judge to continue the work he has been doing so far, and to the great analysts and commentators, thank you for all your dedication, seriousness, and for not distorting the realities. Once again, thank you, and may 2026 be better in terms of the international order.
As Sashstar 999 wrote,
If the U.S. today was compared to a passenger plane, it would be like the pilot and his crew locked the door and was holding the passengers hostage unless a ransom was paid, right? This age priest, or in this case, has already been paid. Almost seems like the money has turned against the U.S., doesn't it? Pretty pathetic to say the least.
At Doggydoo 42 wrote,
It is because I wanted to visit Germany this year, right? Getting older and wanted to see why my grandfather came to the US, I probably would be arrested by the new Germans anyway. We need a whole new government and system. I do not mean anything what we have now or in Europe.
Debdeed wrote,
This is the same pattern that happens with negotiations with the West. Kiev, just like the rabid dog state. 27 Palestinians are being removed from their homes. The Sauds would not play ball. MI6 employed the UAE. The Pharisees have destroyed Christmas. Crepus, Crete, Somalia, all being colonized by the rabid dog state. Trumpet is not a mastermind about marketing. We don't believe his lies. Venezuela shipping for oil was destroyed. No declaration from Congress. I never believed that the Russia Federation would not be a target.
AEOE3QB wrote,
Happy New Year, gentlemen. I'm a British citizen following the Russia v. Ukraine conflict intensely. We, the people, do not want war. Is there really a chance of Britain being struck by a missile? The amount of Russian and Chinese citizens would be a big factor in this decision, surely?
At Denobrian3340 wrote,
Another botched American attempt to commit murder. And then your tool of a president condemns the failed effort with the biggest criminal on the planet standing next to him, bobbing his head in agreement. Poor visuals. You Yanks do not stand a chance of surviving the next decade. And now you have a clown, Tucker Carlson, claiming that Canada is a threat to our security and therefore must be invaded. Your country is a joke in the eyes of the world. Just to let you know, I am a very old Canadian.
At Leonardo Lagarita 2855 wrote,
War with Iran has been coming for 6 months now. Get real, Colonel. If Israel USA had the means to go to war with Iran, they would have by now.
At Lendl Pitts wrote,
The Democratic Party has not been a real pro-peace, anti-imperialist party since the days of George McGovern, and especially not since Bill Clinton. Trump was able to seize on this as an opportunity to pose as a peace candidate and president in a similar way to his hijacking of the white working class, which is traditionally the Democratic Party's core constituency.
At YouTube viewer 8531 wrote,
Once Israel is completely destroyed by Iran and the former territory of Israel turned over to the state of Palestine, the first law of which will be to disallow any Jew ever setting foot in Palestine because they immediately turn into Zionists.
At Chris Record 5625 wrote,
Macgregor is drinking gallons of Putin's Kool-Aid, or he is on his payroll. Inside Russia, fatigue and resentment are festering beneath the suppression of dissent. Over the past year, the Russian economy has lurched from spectacular growth to near stagnation. Russia's digital repression and isolation are deepening as more apps and platforms are banned. According to Western intelligence, more than 1 million Russian fighters have been killed or wounded, many in battles for marginal gains. And as Moscow's search for internal enemies intensifies, its machine of repression is turning on its own children and patriots. Sadly, Putin's Orwellian propaganda is just being mimicked by his useful idiots.
At Boeing Driver 29 wrote,
History is resplendent with evidence that decaying empires use war as a means to attempt to maintain power, but it rarely works and in many cases simply accelerates their slide into the abyss. This very much applies to current-day America and others.
At Adam Sorrell 4851 wrote,
I saw a video of 3 American Mercs ended by 1 Russian soldier. Looked like the Americans ran out of ammo and Russian finished them off. Sad way to die, and what for? Dollar, dollar, dollar they will never spend.
And Juxycat wrote,
It's no good. It's no good. Are you kidding me? Lol.
When is it ever good that Zelensky is in Florida talking to Trump while simultaneously trying to coordinate an assassination of the Russian leader? It's not a coincidence, and it fits his pattern of behavior in the past.
Ed Otto Sturhan wrote,
I think when this is over, we will be in a different age, the end of the iron and the beginning of the age of Tin Zeus, and we will start from scratch. What about concerning Trump? He can go and fly a kite. He can go and F himself.
Ed Socrates Georgikazolias wrote,
The CIA has been a rogue organization since its inception. It is why Truman said he regretted forming it, and Eisenhower and Kennedy both fought against it. Disband NATO. Disband the CIA.
Ed Andy Smith 5012 wrote,
Israelis resort to childish antics, insults, and threats because they are weak and full of fear. They all know it could all come down any minute because they are committing massive crimes and they turn the world against them.
Ed Edward David 2976 wrote,
CIA MI6 MOSDR behind loading boats with drugs. Send boats via remote control towards us fleets and yees. Anything to start WW3 and beyond Trump is also complicit in genocide in several countries. Gaza, Syria, Africa, Ukraine, and elsewhere. Sooner than later, us is going to get more than their $1 kick we like. UK and West going to reap what we as worldwide terrorist country been sowing. Pay will be a bitch, America.
Ed Alexander Stevenson 435 wrote,
Could the Russians have let slip that Putin would be there, knowing he wouldn't? Baiting a trap for the Ukrainians, to take pressure off them to make a deal. Best false flag, get the people you want to blame to do it.
Ed Dennis Gambley wrote,
Colonel Macgregor isn't joking and should be taken seriously. Russian media reported the answers will not be diplomatic while we are in negotiations. That's coming from the FM office only moments ago. Iran was in negotiations with the United States when the Zionist state of Israel attacked them, backed by Trump. While the Duma is changing the wording to a declaration of war.
Ed Diane Gordon 5040 wrote,
The UK government would need an army just to force very reluctant young British men and women into uniforms. The public is not willing to get into a war to protect another country's borders when our own border is being left wide open to anybody that wants to come into the country.
Ed Bob Avon 6048 wrote,
Trump says it's not the right time to attack Putin's house. That's because Trump and Netanyahu want to do it. It's that simple. It cracks me up that Trump and Netanyahu look concerned about Putin. What a joke. Two war criminals who will never be peacemakers.
Ed Grace for All 24 wrote,
Putin is such a liar no one with an intelligent mind would believe that no pictures and they hit every drones. Lol, he's doing it to close down peace talks. Come on, you two, get people to believe your lies. It's immoral what you're doing. Everyone knows Putin wants all of Ukraine or no deal. Russia and Ukraine are the most corrupt countries. Putin is evil and God will end him like every other dictator.
Carl Jones 14 wrote,
Funny how all these pundits always say Ukraine and never say Nazi UK, MI6, and the SAS. Who knows? Maybe some competent Ukrainians and Mossad goons with Zealandia special forces were used, but MI6 did it.
Evugin wrote,
I just want to say thank you to Judge Napolitano for providing such critical content. We in the Western world, one am in France, are toast, but it is very helpful to get some real critical thinking as we plummet into the Middle Ages.
Evandenballs wrote,
What I heard is that Trump was calling Putin before the meeting with Zealand and told him he will call back right after the meeting, so stay around. The American spooks could of course pinpoint the location of Putin and transmitted the data to the UACRs. Putin is upset, and it starts to look like the schemes before attacking Iran and the attack on Hezbollah in Qatar.
Maupka VTO 154 wrote,
This coming year of 2026, I have to make an effort to meet the Colonel to discuss how I can help him get into an elected office. The swamp is on both sides of the aisle.
At N91312 wrote,
Macgregor just shows his propaganda allegiance or low IQ, once again by claiming Ukraine would try to take out Putin at this point in time when U.S. security guarantees are finally on the table. Ukraine would never be so stupid.
At Ireland's Irians wrote,
Britain has always been the promised land. Ireland is the land of milk and honey. The Holy Land in the Middle East was fabricated by Rome 1,000 years ago, during the Crusades. The sons of Jacob ALL came from Britain. Britain equals people of the covenant. There is no J in Hebrew. These U's are living in a fantasy.
At Loricatiga 4231 wrote,
Judge, una domanda se la conversazione telefonica tra Trump e Putin è stata su un canale o una linea altamente securizzata. Si significa che soltanto l'intelligence americana e russa sapevamo della location degli due presidenti. Come ha fatto l'Ucraina a scoprire la location di Putin? Per fare un attacco a Putin. Si puzza di qualcos'altro, può essere coinvolgimento diretto degli USA. Scena date? L.
At Marion_Rusnak wrote,
Sorry, but you are not that competent on economic matters. I wish you were not talking about those, as it diminishes the average quality of what you say.
Chili Pepper 09Y wrote,
Headline: Drone attack on Putin's residence could have triggered a nuclear war. It was a strike on a nuclear weapons control center, as each such residence contains communications nodes through which the head of state can issue the command to use the country's nuclear forces. Jesus Christ. The British are unhinged.
Krilovi8D wrote,
Europe needs peace with Russia. Life is hard even in times of peace, but in times of war there is nothing but destruction, death and poverty and starving.
At Kevin Bill 9574 wrote,
If the government changes the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, then it's now called the Department of War. If you don't like it, note your objection and move on. There's more than enough to talk about without this winging.
THS_MK wrote,
I think Hal Macgregor is mistaken at least about the attitude of the German populace. Christmas is a great opportunity, at least for me, to get out of my usual circle of political debate and probe a broader sample in my old home community. Of course, when you ask if they would want to have war with Russia, everyone says no. But on the other hand, of course, we need to rearm Germany with a clear focus on Russia to defend Europe against that crazy guy Putin over there. And of course, we must support the Ukraine to the end. Because, you see, Ukraine wants to make sovereign decisions about NATO and such, and Russia doesn't have any legitimate security concerns west of Moscow whatsoever at sea, and push for more NATO support, inside Ukraine and from the outside, even to the detriment of our own state finances, security, and well-being. So I think it's going to go like with those wind farms. Everyone i.e. A big majority here says we need them, but also everyone, the same people, is negatively surprised and upset when they're built in their own backyard.
At David Collins 6996 wrote,
MC Gregor is all over the place. He doesn't even agree with himself. How can Russia be facing an existential threat if they are going to win imminently, which MC Gregor has been saying for years? How are all these assets worthless if the dollar is collapsing with runaway inflation? Where is the BRICS currency that MC Gregor was predicting years ago? I thought he also says China doesn't want the dollar replaced as the world's reserve currency? This is all alarmist nonsense.
And Ms. Betka wrote,
The West hates the JWs, rightfully so, and Russia is not the enemy. The European people do not fear Russia. We fear and hate our rotten governments who work against us Europeans.
At Lauren Echlet 2880 wrote,
Thank you both for your excellent coverage of events around the world during 2015. Seems 2026 will be equally eventful, if not worse. Wishing you both a happy new year despite the potential for unforeseen issues and those that we are already aware of.
At The Hard Truth 315 wrote,
People need to finally understand the main thing here. As long as Russia declares itself a Christian-dominated nation, it will always, by nature, be a danger to Israel and must be eradicated. Russia, along with Iran, is the biggest exporter of anti-Semitism and a danger to Jews all over the world. Once again, the USA and Europe must be ready and willing to take a stance and be ready to make the human and material sacrifices necessary to protect the land of Israel and the Jewish people, who want nothing more than to exist peacefully as GD's chosen people and GD given title of rulers of his creation, the world.
At Bradford Davis 6497 wrote,
The persona, a flimsy John Wayne wannabe, is both maximum public theater and the perfect front for the rogue state run by the unseen tip of the banking pyramid, via the various Western subordinate rogue states, to attempt global financial reassertion, the return of a radical left-elected U.S. government beginning in 26 and completing in 28, and destroy MAGA and all various strains of the American right. The U.S. is the last, somewhat resistant, domino in the Western financials collection of cattle farms. Who better to hand it over than a populist comedian / bankruptcy artist, turned political and economic visionary? One must understand the brilliance and efficiency of Prescott Bush to absorb this M/O. He is the genius, no sarcasm implied or intended. He was a true genius who manipulated and merged public institutions, information, finance, and law to create vast intergenerational wealth and political power still in place to this day. To this model is now applied an elected face. And what a face it is. Prescott Bush was more honest. He personally fought his battles in court with the finest legal and financial minds available. He stood at the fore and won. Today, it does not work that way. America has been dumbed down below any level of respect. In 2025 and beyond, it's a clown show. Happy New Year, everyone. May 2026 bring you all great success, happiness, and joy.
At Benzons wrote,
Ukraine the new hotbed for terror and the new hate being Russia. So move over Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Here comes the Azov P. MPS.
At Valeria Tweedy 4376 wrote,
Let Turkey and Israel fight it out. At this point, I don't care. Israel might finally figure out that all its bullying is going to have blowback from a country that can kick Israel's ass. Does the leadership in Israel really think it is going to take on both Iran and Turkey at the same time? No, it thinks it is going to sick its attack dog, the US military, on it. I think the American people need to make it very clear that they are going to vote out every member of Congress that votes for money for Israel and Israel's wars next November. Even Trump, compromised as he is, doesn't want a complete turnover of Congress that will surely be in the Democrats' favor.
At Pat Rivers 5910 wrote,
Until the elephant in the room
is acknowledged and addressed, America doesn't stand a chance. DJT has rapidly advancing neurological and physical issues. He's not capable of making ANY decisions. His handlers, Vought, Nutlick, E. Martin, Thiel, S. Miller, Netanyahu, Adelson, E.M. Etsy all realize this and are making all the decisions. Everyone knows just give DJT, his family, Witkoff, and his sons $billions and they'll sell America. We, literally, have no one guarding the gates for America. DJT has willingly turned over our sovereignty to the anti-human technocrats. People need to stop making excuses for DJT. He's always been a conman, malignant narcissist, grandiose narcissist, and a functioning psychopath. Look up the traits of these three extreme personality disorders. I expect a mental, physical crisis at any moment. Add dementia, Alzheimer's. He's now in a manic phase with him posting 1,00 s of posts in a couple of hours. This is elder abuse by his family. But they don't care BC, they're making $billions as fast as they can while DJT is still upright. Criminals. I voted for him and deeply regret it.
At M_Go7128 wrote,
7-6 Putin believes Trump is quite sincere. ROFL, no one believes that Trump is sincere except his cult. Trump is a liar. He would sell Putin or Zelensky out to whoever makes the best offer. Nothing Trump says can be taken serious because he is a weak leader, his cognitive abilities are declining, and he is so damn insecure. No matter what Trump says one day, he can say the exact opposite the next day. Hence nothing he says, negotiates is worth even looking at it.
At BadooBoy1 wrote,
Sad. Sad America. The beautiful country's going backwards and down. And lots of Americans don't have a clue what's going on around the world.
At Tetelestai7779 wrote,
Pax Judaica, the Zionist world order. Pax Judaica represents a new form of empire, where Israel exerts global influence, not through traditional military occupation, but via proxy power, intelligence, surveillance, and advanced technology. This model leverages political, economic, and technological dominance to steer existing powers, especially the United States. Israel's influence is now about steering powerful allies in global systems rather than direct control. The future of power lies in data control and dependency, with Israel strategically positioned at the heart of digital surveillance and AI development. This evolving landscape challenges traditional notions of empire and sovereignty, urging us to rethink how power operates in the 21st century.
At InspireTy wrote,
Russia will go all the way to Buckingham Palace. People will wake up to realize Hitler was not a villain. Russia WW2 archive is key, search at Reddit. I say it again. We're still in British Empire. France lost Battle of Waterloo, become British proxy. US lost Civil War, become British proxy German, and Japan lost WW2, become British proxy. Israel create to be proxy. Cater is HQ for the globalists. Read 1945 Russia World War II archive. It state clearly. Use AI or Google to translate it.
At Jimmy Eyes 8439 wrote,
I'm tired of hearing this protection of Donald Trump as if he really doesn't want to be in these situations, but he's in. If he truly felt to the core that things aren't going his way, he needs to just step aside and let someone else in who isn't afraid of stomping some toes.
At David Killy 1727 wrote,
Doug is dumb. Trump was on the phone to Putin. Told him to stay by the phone. They knew. CIA, MI6, Mossad. They knew, dog. They knew.
At Anurindivis 5943 wrote,
War in Ukraine will continue through 2026.
President Putin is aware of this. Dmitry Zolotarev, geopolitical affairs and military analyst, speaking to Redacted in early January 2025.
At David Collins 6996 wrote,
The U.S. Congress has a mind of its own. That's outrageous. Surely they should be controlled by the president. That's not what separation of powers was meant to mean, was it?
At Joshua Biggs 1991 wrote,
King James Version, to believe means to be persuaded or convinced. Jesus is the Christ. Christ means Messiah. Savior Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Jesus Christ is God. John 1:1, KJV. He saves people from eternal death. He died on the cross, was buried, and rose again on the third day. He conquered death for all humans, regardless of who they are or what they have done or will do. The Messiah gives you everlasting life and saves you from death for believing in him. You just have to believe in him one time. Not continuous. For salvation, to believe in Jesus Christ is to believe he is the Christ. He gives eternal life to all who believe that he is the Christ. John 20:31, John 6:47, 1 John 5:1, John 11:20-27, John 3:16 KJV. You only need to believe in Jesus Christ one time for salvation, not continuously. John 6:47, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath eternal life. John 3:16, For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. 1 John 5:1, Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves him, who begot also loves him who is begotten. Once saved, always saved. John 6:37, All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never cast out.
As Sawyer 4713 wrote,
Pollard's statement is stomach-churning. Thank you both for all you have done to give us the truth of what is happening. We should all mentally prepare for what might or will happen in 2026.
Karen B. One by wrote,
There is no reason for the US to support NATO, or Europe for that matter, when the leaders are allowing millions of Muslims and Africans to invade their countries.
At KG98760 wrote,
Always so good to listen to Mr. Macgregor. For people who actually want to hear the truth. Because I'm sick of the cesspool of the lying the Western governments and their media. Russia never wanted this war. All set up by the West to destroy Russia. They've stabbed the Russians in the back ever since the Berlin Wall fell.